What's up, guys? We are training shoulders today. So we're going to start with this lying side lateral here. And I want to show you one trick about it because a lot of people mess this up. So the way we're doing this, we're hitting the side delt, okay? But we're laying like this and we're kind of coming across the body here, which is going to feel different. What a lot of people do wrong is they want to try to come up like this, like you would for like a seated side lateral here. So this hits the mid delts this way, but also try bringing your arm across this way, like across your body here and across and up, and you will feel how it hits that mid delt. So this is the path that we're following. So lay down here, across the chest, coming up like this. You want to really let that weight kind of pull down and feel that stretch at the bottom, and then up and across. Basically lock the shoulder out of the top and then control that down and feel those fibers really pull and stretch. Explosive on the way up, controlled on the way down. All right, so we're gonna flip around the other side, the other arm. So this way you can kind of see from both angles. So I'm gonna drop this down, keep that core tight, up and across. And just move your arm and find where you feel that into the mid delt the most. Don't think you have to be locked into some specific range of motion that somebody else is doing. Really find how your body works. Really make sure you feel that stretch. All right. So this is a stretch position exercise for the shoulders. If you guys follow me for a while, you know a lot of times I like to start with those cable laterals. Today we want to mix it up a little bit, so we're going with the dumbbell. But this is a way, laying on your side like this, where that arm comes across the body. Same thing how we're standing up with that cable across the body, and you get more tension that way. So here's just a way to do essentially the same movement with a dumbbell instead. The one difference with this versus the cable is on this one, like when you get locked out of the top, like you'll feel your delt squeezing, like it doesn't just go off to nothing. But when you have that arm straight up, you do have bone structure support as opposed to a cable coming across. There's tension coming back the entire time, but it's also then tension at a different angle. So that's the thing. There's not really one exercise that I would say is best or better than another. That's why it's very important to use different variations so that you're always hitting the muscle from different angles, different leverage points, different tension points, all kinds of different things like that. All right, so we're gonna come over here now. We're gonna do a kneeling face pull. This might need to come back a little further. Kneel down, good stretch forward. Really let those shoulder blades slide up over your shoulders, and they were pulling back along the head like this, like a face pull. So keep a kind of a slight lean forward. If you come around to the side, you'll see what I'm saying. I want to keep this lean, all right? So I'm forward. What I don't want to do is come back like this. When you come back like this, that's not necessarily bad, but it's just kind of changing the angle a little bit, and it kind of gets a little bit more lat involvement. This one, a lot of people think it's going to get lat involvement because of the angle here. If you pull down like this below my face, now we're getting lats. But as long as you stay up like this, you're going to get those rear delts a lot more. Big stretch is always important. Particularly on this one because we have that exaggerated angle where we're back kneeling down. You really want to let that shoulder blade open up. That's going to really help keep the shoulders healthy. So now, I'm just going to take this here, drop it down. I might have to change the weight. I think I'm crazy trying this. We'll see. Yeah, no fucking way. Not for friends. So this one, you can use a rope attachment where you would hold it here like this, doing a front raise. I'm doing it today with the strap, just because what I like about it is you can put your wrists through and then there's no grip. So it's really focused more on just lifting that arm. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of push out. Don't think so much about like lifting up. Think more like you're reaching forward. So hands kind of come together as I come back. I'm gonna take a step forward and then out a little bit as I come forward. Always make sure to keep that core tight to support the back when you're in this lean forward position. All right. We'll take a quick rest. Do another set here. All right, next set, first working set. So we're going a little bit heavier this time. So really get that stretch. An explosive pull up, control down. All right. Well, so this one, like I'm just using 15 pounds. So this is one of those exercises that doesn't need to be and really shouldn't be super heavy because you're in this kind of awkward position on your side like this. You don't have a whole lot of stability because your feet aren't anchored or anything. You're just kind of leaning on your elbow. You're going to use that core to kind of balance you and keep you straight so you don't dip off the bench. But we're kind of getting down here, letting that weight dip towards the floor, feeling that stretch in the shoulder. And then you're coming up like this. If you go too heavy, you're going to throw yourself off the bench. You don't want to do that, or you're going to twist here. So it's really about just getting that stretch, getting that reach extension, like I'm trying to reach back towards the ceiling. All right. So again, I can't stress that enough. The most important part about this exercise is the stretch, is getting that muscle activation. Then when we move on to our next exercise, we're gonna have a lot more muscle fiber activation in that shoulder from this one. All right, so let's go back over here. Lean forward, good stretch. Those shoulder blades come up. So this one, we're just doing these knee lean. Just kind of show you what I'm talking about. It makes more sense. So these knee lean face pulls, I would call them, because you are still kind of pulling towards the face. It's the best way to understand what I'm talking about. But how we're doing that lean forward and pulling like this, you almost want to think of it like you're doing a behind the neck pull down, like further back. We'll be sitting up and pulling down behind the head. The way we're putting that lean forward keeps the lats out of it. And we're not going all the way behind the head, but if you kind of think that way, that's going to help get better rear delt engagement, which is what we're trying to do. So we'll move this down. And a little heavier on these two. Hands through the cuffs. So I'll show you another thing on these ones. So you want to keep that chest up tall so that you get a good stretch in those delts. But come around kind of the side a little bit. So when I say keep that chest tall, what you don't want to do, what a lot of people do that you don't want to do, is they get in this position and they just lift the chest like this and they arch the back, your butt's sticking up. Don't want that, right? So keep that core tight. Bring that whole upper body up. You can see I still am leaned forward slightly. I'm not perfectly upright. I'm still forward slightly, but I'm high enough up that that cable can pull my arm down and I'm getting that stretch. I'm not just back like this. All right, so kind of upright, reaching like this. Keep the abs tight so that you're not like hinging through the mid back. All right, last set of these. Those ones are tough. And so it's good to do them. Like I said, I prefer the cable, like I was saying earlier, which when I say I prefer, that doesn't mean that's better. It just means I like it more. So it's like I said, it's good to do both. The cable I like better because it's really smooth and you can really lock into that movement. But that's the same reason why doing this with a dumbbell is also very effective and should be done as well, because of the opposite of that. Because I like the smoothness with the cable, not having that where you have to stabilize more and control it more with the free weight makes that, gives it its own benefit. So both are important. That's why, on my app, on my programs, I cycle through a lot of different variations of the same type of movement. So whether we be starting with a cable lateral for a stretch or the line side lateral for a stretch, we're always starting with some variation of a stretch to really activate those delts. All right, let's do another one of these. Don't be afraid to sometimes get these little rest pauses in here. This one's kind of long while I'm talking about it, where I'll kind of stop, take a couple breaths, and then try to grind out some more reps. I'll show you how it actually should be done here in a second without the talking. It just kind of gives your muscles a little bit of a short break. Lets you get a couple breaths in, get some more oxygen in. Kind of lets you refocus your mind, kind of reevaluate how many more you can do. So it's different than like putting the weight down, shaking out, all that kind of stuff. We're still keeping on there. I'm still at that stretch. So when I'm resting, I'm in a full stretch. I'm not kind of in the middle. So that's going to be activating muscle fibers as it is. Just take a couple short breaths like that. You don't want to do too much of a rest, but then you can usually knock out a couple more. So that's a little advanced technique I'll use sometimes to kind of push my set a little bit farther. I'll stop, take a couple breaths, hit another couple reps, stop, take a couple more breaths, and then hit a few more reps. So I'll do that like once or twice. So you're not going to do that like 5, 6, 7 times and just keep the set going on infinitely. All right, one more set of front raise. All right. I don't know if I'm the only one, but it gives me crazy anxiety every time I move one of these benches. This is why. Where is that scar at? Yeah, look at this. This scar right on this ankle bone. Just looking at this scar gives me pain. I was moving this one time. I hit the corner right on that ankle bone. Holy shit. That hurts so bad. So every time I move the bench, it bothers me. All right, so we're gonna do dumbbell overhead press. And so now I set this on a little bit of an incline, and the reason why is mainly because of my back, right? I have a pretty thick back. So with that bench all the way upright, I'm so far forward that that weight, my back pushes my body forward that I'm almost like leaning forward, and to bring the weight down in front like pulls me forward. So setting it back where my lats can kind of sit into the bench a little bit more. Now I'm actually upright as opposed to being pushed too far forward. So as you get bigger, as you get a thicker back, you're going to need to move that seat back a little bit further. So I used to have this set on the 3rd notch back. Now I have it moved to the 5th notch back just as I put on more size. So don't be afraid. I mean, you don't want to be all the way back to where you're doing like an incline press for the chest. Keep in mind, we are still working the shoulders. Don't overdo it. But especially if you're getting pain in the front of that shoulder, move that bench back a little bit. It'll take some of the pressure off. Now for these, you'll be able to see it better when I'm doing the movement. So this, the way I'm going to do it today, I'm still just going to consider an overhead press, not an Arnold press. So a normal Arnold press, he's going to start all the way in front like this and then come all the way out. I don't really like that for a couple of reasons. One, with my arms and my chest, I have a really hard time getting that in. I'm having to really flex my chest to pull my arms in front enough. And then this rotation back, moving from here to here, is working all this stuff back here, the rotator cuff, all of that, which is good. But then if I'm working that, by the time I get to that press, it's going to be way too light to press, or if it's heavy enough to press, it's going to be too heavy for this, and I'm going to risk injuring the shoulder. So I don't really like to do that full movement. When I do an Arnold press, I'm going to start like this, right? Palms in as opposed to palms facing me, and then I'm going to rotate here. So that being said, I'm not doing that today, which sounds weird to specify that, but I want you to see the difference of this rotation versus what I'm going to do, because I'm still going to be here. I'm not going to be all the way out to the side, but I'm not going to be totally neutral. I'm going to be at this like 45-degree angle, and there's still going to be a little bit of rotation. So that's why I want to specify the difference between the Arnold press with this bigger rotation and what I'm doing today, where my hands are just slightly forward and I'm doing more of just a press. Hopefully that makes sense. Be interesting to see if this microphone picks up my shoulder and elbow popping. So that one, like I was explaining before, that shoulder angle, like I said, 45 degrees, that's just kind of like a rough estimate. It's not going to be exactly that. It's not going to be the same person to person. So just find where your shoulders feel comfortable. All right, that's where we got to individualize things a little bit. Learn your body, understand how your body works, how it's supposed to move, all that kind of stuff. All right, now we're going to do bent over laterals. So what I like about this is, aside from just the way they hit the rear delts, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of suck my stomach in and kind of round forward, because my chest and back are supported on my legs here. So I can kind of round forward, get a little bit of a stretch in that lower back, and kind of open that up a little bit while I'm doing this exercise. So what we want to do when we come down, what a lot of people do is they stay tight like this, and it's just like a lever. When you come down, let those arms, I like to say dip towards the floor is what makes the most sense to me, but kind of dip down towards the floor, and then you're pulling up and out like this and getting a little bit of a rotation in there. All right, so pick these up, knees together, lift that chest up, kind of pull that stomach in, round over like this, stretch that back, tight grip, hanging down towards the floor, up and out. So I've talked about it before with different exercises and how tempo is going to be different, where some of them are going to be more just like pumping. These ones are one in particular where it's like every individual rep. So I'm going to come down to a full stop, squeeze, stop, squeeze. So I'm not saying necessarily that that's the right way to do it. That's just the way I connect best with this particular exercise. So granted, I do personally think that's the better way to go. But again, just because I think it's better doesn't necessarily mean it's right for everybody across the board. So try different tempos. That's what I recommend with everything. Try doing things a few different ways with different tempos and see what works best for you. See what you feel the most, what you connect with the most. We're just gonna do seated dumbbell shrugs. And I'm probably gonna go with 30, I think, on this, which people are gonna think is insanely light. But a lot of people train traps too heavy. Like they are a lot stronger muscles than a lot of people think, so you can go real heavy. But if you want to get really good activation and building and developing the traps, go a little bit lighter, really focus on that stretch and squeeze like every other muscle. That's what people have always made a big deal about my traps. And that's a big reason why, is because I get that full stretch all the way down and that squeeze. Now I have gone very heavy before. Like if you're more into strength, if you're training for strength, things like that, yeah, train a little bit heavier, more support, because that's what the traps are doing in most strength movements, is they're just locking in and they're supporting. So I don't want to say don't use full range of motion, but that full stretch and squeeze is less important with strength training for the traps, not for everything, but for the traps, it's less important with strength training than it is for bodybuilding. And now the other thing you'll see too is what I do is I kind of lean back just a little bit like this, contract the abs, keep my ribs down, and I'm focused on really getting that pull back. That's another thing a lot of people do when they do their shrugs. Oh, those are rolling away from me. Is they want to pull like this and round forward. We don't want to do that. We want to come up and back like this. And so when you do that, my elbows are going to kind of come out to the side a little bit. It might be kind of hard to see if you can get the reflection there. But when I pull back and in like that, right, it's going to bring my arms out. So that's what people that say too rigid and want to pull up like this, and you're really limiting your range of motion by doing that. Also, don't be afraid to get a little bit of elbow flexion in there. Now, I'm not, jerking and pulling with my arms, but as I squeeze, my elbows are going to bend slightly. They just have to. So same thing, if you just keep your elbows completely straight and try to do this, you're limiting yourself more than you're helping anything. All right, that's another one where you see me closing my eyes when I do that one. That's one with traps particularly. It really helps me connect a lot better if I kind of close my eyes, take the mirror out of it, and just really focus on getting that squeeze back. When I keep my eyes open and watch myself, that's when visually I want to see my traps moving and I start to get that pull forward. So again, it's just different person to person. Some people, they want to lock in on what they're doing. Some people can just kind of like zone out, and then I like to close my eyes on some exercises, sometimes not. It's another thing I like to do to kind of take myself out of it to explain it. But I don't necessarily do it on everything, but particularly I'm going to do like a bigger, heavier set where I kind of really need to get in it. I just kind of close my eyes, get my breathing on point, just kind of let everything else go and really get into that zone. I don't necessarily do that for something like curls, you know what I'm saying? Like curls or like side laterals, since we're doing shoulders, I suppose. Like for a better term, I like grip it and rip it kind of thing. Just pick it up and go. Where something like a press, I want to kind of get in that zone a little bit more. So again, try what works for you. Okay, back in the zone. I don't even know how many reps that was. Sometimes when you really get into that zone, I just like to go. Just go. Get what I can. I don't even know. don't want to say it doesn't matter because you do want to track your progress, but sometimes you just get in that, really get locked in on a certain set. Just take it to wherever it can go. All right. Another set of bent over laterals. So lift that chest, stomach in, round forward, and hold that position. Oh. Shoulders are one where it's such an or underrated, such an underrated muscle group. I think people just like having the big chest, big arms, and everything, but like the shoulder, that's part of your arm in a way. I mean, it's coming off the body, but having that cut here really helps that bicep to stand out. It brings that definition, that tricep here, gets a separation in the back. Having that width makes your chest look bigger and broader. So aside from just having big shoulders on their own, having big shoulders are going to make your arms look bigger and it's going to make your chest look bigger. So same thing, honestly, from the back too, if we're being honest. Like, turn around from the back. If you have big, thick lats, but then no shoulders on the top, you're almost going to look like a fat person because you're just going to look like rounded over. But if you have big, wide shoulders, even if your back isn't super, super wide, you're starting from here. So it's still going to look wide. So shoulders are, in my opinion, one of the most important things to having good size. All right. So this exercise, we're going to be forward on this incline bench. So what we want to do, you want to get set here, and then you want to kind of bring your shoulders over the top so they're really hanging over. You don't want to be like this, so they're pushed into the side. So good full extension, hang over the top, and now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of come out at an angle like this. Kind of like that first exercise that we did, the lying side lateral, where we're coming across our body. This is a similar thing. So we're coming here. So again, for me, it's about, I'd say, a 30 to 45 degree angle here. So find what works for you, where you're going to feel it in that mid delt the most. So this exercise, I'm going to try 15. Like, this is another one of those guys where, like, the position that you're in and the way you're hanging over and super, super isolated, like, this is not a heavy exercise. Like, you're not going to be able to do it heavy. And if you try to, you're just going to really fuck up the movement and it's not going to be nearly as effective. So this is one of those where don't be afraid to go light on it. It's all right. It'll be more effective that way. So make sure our chest is down, shoulders over the top, tight grip. Reach down to the floor at the bottom so you get that full stretch. Up hard and fast. Ooh, those are tough. Those are way harder. I don't know what they look like. So this one, we're going to do kind of a cable upright row. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can do this for different purposes. A couple different ways you can do this. You can do a close grip here where you're standing up, pulling like this, and that's going to really hit the traps more. You can do a wider grip where we're up close like this, and that's going to be more mid delts. I'm going to actually lighten this up a little bit. But the way we're going to do it today is we're going to take this wide grip, but I'm going to step back a little bit further like this. Still keep the hips tucked, abs tight, stretching down like this. I'm letting that bar still kind of stay close to me. It's pulling forward, but I'm not letting it pull me forward, if that makes sense. I'm staying here and then pulling up. So because I'm on this angle, it's going to be a little bit of a pull back and it's going to hit the rear delts more than if I stepped up here. Now we're going to be into those mid delts. Now what I like to do with my grip is put my thumbs over the top like this, and that just kind of helps stabilize that wrist. So whether I'm pulling here or stepping back, pulling here, that just helps me keep my wrist straight so I can really just lock into that movement of the upper arm to hit the delt. Oh, man, those are tough. So another one's way harder than what it looks like. So today is one of those days where I'm a little bit behind on my eating. Didn't get a lot of sleep, so I'm super, super tired today. So knowing that I'm going to be super tired, I don't have a lot of energy to put into moving heavy weight today. That's why I've picked a lot of these a little bit more unorthodox exercises that are just more challenging in the movement pattern to where I'm not using as much weight. So I've gone pretty light on, I don't know that I've lifted, well, I did 30 pounds for shrugs today. That's the heaviest I fucking lifted. Well, no, I did heavier on my presses, but regardless, I've not trained heavy at all, just with the exercise selection today, but I've blasted my delts. So that's a thing, is there's going to be days where you're going to feel really good, and then you can pick, some heavier movements where you're going to be pushing weight and really, going all out. There's other days we're going to be, behind, tired, depleted, whatever the case may be. You can still train the muscles hard with lighter weight that's not going to be as stressful on your overall system. So that's the other thing to keep in mind, is it's all about the stimulation to the muscle. It's not about the number on the plate. All right, so what we're going to do for a front raise today is I'm going to give a little bit of an underhand rotation. And so what that's also going to do is it's going to kind of bring my arms slightly out. So like if I'm keeping a neutral grip, I'm going to be more straightforward, maybe even kind of coming in a little bit. But this one, the way I'm going to rotate out and kind of open up that front delta a little bit more, it's going to isolate, but it's also going to force my arm out a little bit. So don't be concerned with the arms going out. And we're going to alternate with these ones. So we're going to do it here. That felt pretty good. So that actually felt pretty light to me this time. So like I could probably go a little bit heavier on the next set. Like I definitely feel like my muscles could handle, I could do it well. But the thing is also, these ones they're feeling really good on my shoulder. So I'm getting a good squeeze at the top, but on the way down, I'm really feeling a good stretch, and I'm feeling a lot of space being created in that joint, which feels really good. It's almost kind of like a massage in a way. So I think I'm going to stay with this weight on the next set, particularly from what I was just saying in the last one, was that I'm really tired and kind of beat up today. So like I'm very confident I could do those 20s and that would be good. But I think that having the better stretch and the opening effect, considering this is going to be my last set of the whole workout anyway, like if I went up 5 pounds for one set, it's not going to add like another inch to my shoulder or a quarter pound of muscle. You know what I'm saying? It's just that those extra 5 pounds on one set is not going to push me over the edge in growth. Whereas if I stay smart, stay lighter on this one, open up that shoulder, then that's going to have me just healthier the next time. I'll be able to train heavier than I would before, things like that. So sometimes it's about like, let's call it paying it forward in a sense. We're being easy this week as an investment into the recovery of our body so that we can do more next week, right? So that's the thing, is don't always look at it as just today. Look at what can I do today that's going to make next time better. And sometimes that's dialing it back a little bit today so that you can dial it up even more the next time. All right, now we'll see how it feels, but I think we're going to do a drop set on this last one. The last one felt real good, so as long as I feel good when we get through these ones, we'll go a few more reps with those. So those ones at the end where I was doing those partials, it looks like I'm just kind of swinging around, which you want to make sure that you're not doing that. So when I get to that point where they're just totally blasted, basically what I'm trying to do is just push my arm out as hard and fast as I can, as much as it'll go. So if it's just a little bit like this, it's just that quick contraction, and I'm controlling it to a dead stop, so I'm not just like swinging my arm back and forth. But basically what it looks like is just a quick push as much as I can till it gets to the point where, like, if I'm just going like to this far, nothing's happening, right? I'm not getting to enough point where there's any resistance coming back down. So on an exercise like this, where we're pushing against gravity, when I'm here, I'm only lifting like a percentage of that weight. I come to here, I'm lifting a little bit more. I come out here, now I'm lifting the full thing. So that kind of goes back to why cables are so effective, is because you're getting that resistance through the whole thing, whereas dumbbells, it's accumulating resistance as you come up. So each one has its own benefit. The cable, you're having more resistance throughout the whole exercise, whereas dumbbells, you're putting more stress at the top of that exercise in the contracted position. So they each have their own benefit. That's what I'm liking. I'm doing these at the end today for that contracted position. So we did stretch position to start with, then we did a compound movement in the middle with those presses, and now we're doing this isolated contraction position to finish. So we're going through all three, right? Stretch position, mid-range, contracted position. Big thing on this is my chest stays down, ribs stay down, abs stay tight. I'm not doing this, arching my back. So yeah, this is a big one I like to do, is we sometimes rotate the other way, you know, because that really helps with like a bench press. Because as you're pressing, you're tight and you're gonna flare, right? So that's why we want to do these occasionally while we're rolling over to help with that movement. But that's why it's also important to do these going underhand, going the opposite way, so that we're working that opposite movement. Because if you're just always rolling this way, that's what's going to get you really tight, bound up. That's where you start to have impingement, shoulder problems like this. So doing these kind of opening movements from time to time just help with health of the shoulder, which then in turn helps with performance, which then in turn helps with muscle growth. All right, let's do it. Last one. Whoa. All right. That's pretty decent. Decent enough. So that's it for this one, guys. So this was a good one to see where, you know, this wasn't a deload week. You know, I'm still feeling good overall. This was just like a day, just exhausted. So this is why it was good to be able to film on this day, because you can kind of see how I can take a day where like my shoulders feel good, my muscles feel good, like I'm recovering fine, but just my overall system is it's not firing on all cylinders today with, you know, missing meals and sleep, which happens. We don't want to do that, but it happens. So that's where we can come in and use some of these more isolated, unorthodox movements to really still push the muscles, but not the central nervous system as much. So it's almost like doing a deload without actually doing a deload. Now, that doesn't mean that you can do that all the time, right? That doesn't mean just do this instead of a deload. We still want to have our regular programmed deloads in there every 4 to 6, 8 weeks, whichever, you know, it is for you. But this is an example on a day where, you know, if you're just not feeling like, there's no way that I was going to come in here and do heavy fucking barbell presses today. It just wasn't going to happen. If I did, they wouldn't be very good. My form would be bad. My stimulation would be bad. And I just wouldn't get, if I tried to train heavy today the way I'm feeling, it would be subpar to what I did today with lighter weights. So my point is, there's multiple ways to be productive. Know how to make adjustments for yourself on those days. So have a good one, guys. We'll see you next time.